Hello. Welcome to Healthy by Choice, the podcast that's here to ignite your belief in what's truly possible for your health and well-being. Hi, I'm Dr. Kerry, and what lights me up is empowering others. My mission has always been to inspire you to take your health seriously and give you the tools to understand your body on a deeper, more meaningful level. In each episode, we'll explore the healing power of nature, the role of real food as medicine, and how intentional movement can restore balance to your body and mind. So whether you're on a journey of prevention, recovery, or simply seeking more vitality, this podcast is your reminder. You hold the power to heal. Thanks so much for joining me. Hi, friends. Welcome back. Well, what a pleasure. I get to introduce you to my colleague and friend, Dr. Heidi Walrath. And this week, this energy-based chiropractor is going to help us see ourselves as our systems in a bigger, broader way. What she does is guide her clients and her patients to the fullness of being human, the higher consciousness of that soul field. And then you will get to witness how she works because she guides me into my own heart space, into my experience. It's about living in the heart, right? I want to be coming from who I am, live in my heart, live in my action, and to be in alignment. So she does a quick example of her work with me, and I'm excited to have you experience that. And we can bring our attention from outside of ourselves to inside of ourselves in a loving, kind way. With that, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Heidi Walrath. Dr. Heidi, what an honor and a true pleasure to spend time with you. I am super excited for this today.
So great to see you, my dear. I love it. I'm so excited you reached out, and I'm loving that we get to connect and dive into some fun topics today.
Agreed. And so I know Dr. Heidi from chiropractic school. This is back, almost 20 years ago. And recently you've been showing up on Insta in a big way, at least for me. And what I should say is I don't usually use Instagram, and I'm considering using it. So you and I must have connected. It must have been years ago because we were friends in real life, IRL.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I got to see these videos of you and your teachings and how they spoke to me. And I really want to share with my audience what you're up to in the world, and particularly this, how I would describe it is the way that you are inclusive about helping people learn deep healing. I don't know that that says enough, and I'll let you continue. But what I feel when I watch your videos is the gift of, yes, we all want to heal. Yes, we as practitioners want you as clients to heal. And Heidi is giving people some really tangible, right? I mean, I'm assuming that that's what your intention is, to give people steps they can take on their own, and obviously also work with you. Absolutely. But I love that. So what would you say about your magic that you do and how you—
Absolutely. Well, I'll do a disclaimer. I tend to swear occasionally, but I'll try to manage that. I say if you're going to be dramatic, emphasize appropriately. I would say, on all the years I've been doing self-growth work since I was 20, I literally started that year of reflecting back, and all the years of books and trainings. And I felt like there was such a need for story and to be in this conversation that sounded really good. But when you go to put your life in action and you go to start, okay, well, what do I do? I have all this information, but what do I do with it? How do I make this a part of my life? I have a lot of clients who I see who have, they've gone to the Tony Robbins, they've gone and done all this work, they've done breath work, they've done journeys, and they come back and they don't know what to do with any of the work that they have, any of the tools that they learned. And a lot of it sounds so good. It's like, oh yeah, this is a great idea. I love this. But what do we do with all that information to change our world right now? And yes, we can do things like nervous system regulation and breath work, and we can create some tangible tools of mindset and habits and boundaries. But what I have found is, especially things like journaling, a lot of it is still in the mental world. And to be human, to truly recognize our human self, we are multiple worlds in a universe, right? We're the microcosm of the macrocosm. And if we start to understand it that way, if we're only working in one little area, in one little planet, and we have all of these other things that we never address, we never actually go anywhere. We stay in this one little orbit and we go over and over and over again. So, what I've seen in a lot of healing work is there's these great tools, but we have these loops that we keep doing. And things change, things shift. But what if you could understand that you are layers of consciousness, you are layers of experience, you are layers of light, and that each one of those layers is actually another world? It's another layer in the field, right? We understand these like quantum dynamics and the holographic nature of the universe. Well, we are that. So, what I see is a lot of teachings can go into the tangible of breath work, cold plunge, yoga, journaling. But what about the entire world of your emotional existence? What about the entire world of your soul existence? What about the entire world of your relationship with God? And wasn't a religious person, but it has come through a lot lately. What about all those entire worlds that have not been addressed? And how do we get there and actually make it tangible? And one of the things when I started teaching is that I would have people come to me with this understanding of like, oh, well, I want to work on this. And the only thing I see is like light a candle, call in my spirit guides, call in my angels, call in that. And I would see psychics and other healers, and none of them could actually tell me if it actually worked. They did all the techniques. And so I would ask, how do you know if this actually works? Right? Are you tracking the energy? Can you feel the difference, not just through your intention, but actually see the energy change and change you? So, one of the things that I really wanted to get away from was the philosophy chatter and the concepts of healing. And I wanted to make it into tangible things. Like, I can touch this, this is tangible. I can feel this, this is tangible. So creating an understanding, it's like I used to work with a shaman, Incan shaman, and it was funny. She is like stereotype shaman, just the kind of, yeah. I mean, if you could stereotype what you think an elder wisdom shaman would look like, she was this, and it was pretty wild. And I remember in her guidance, she would talk to her students about opening your mind.
Okay.
And do we ever even know how to do that? Does anybody ever explain?
No, I'm
No, it
willing.
drives me
I'm
freaking
open.
crazy.
I'm
So
open to opening my mind.
oh yeah, yeah. So we have, and or you can go light a candle and you can like call in your supports to none of that freaking works, right? So I started looking at how can I make this make sense so that you can actually feel a change in concept. And so what I started looking at is I need to make a world that people can actually find their connection to self tangibly and then apply it into their everyday life.
Okay.
And so that's been my mission, is to recreate an environment that teaches people their intimate connection with their soul, whether it's in the emotional layer, a mental layer, I call them fields, whether it's spiritual field, but to actually be able to experience their human self with the volume turned up, because most of us live life like we're watching a movie.
I know I was for many years.
And it's so prevalent, and we don't even know that we're in a movie and we're not actually experiencing
I want
things.
to ask about this because I am this person, right? I'm the person who I have my morning routines and then I change it. And I'm like, okay, here's the candle, here's the journaling, here's the meditation. And when you look at my list of what I do, what I have committed to every day. So tell me, as an example of your clients, how do you get them in alignment? How do you get them to move out of the doing into the being, right? Because my big thing was like move into your heart, live from my heart space. And that has been a huge change and a very, very valuable change. But what you're saying is it's not only deeper, it's also wider.
Absolutely. And how do you know you're living in your heart space?
Well, for me personally, I can tell you when I'm not hearing, listening, I'm not affected by the outside. It's like the glow. I have a pink glitter glow that
Mm,
is just
mm,
me.
mm,
And it's a little hard to function in that way, right?
yeah,
But it's also so I live alone and I know when I'm alone and the doors are locked and I'm at peace, whether I'm lying down or walking around the house doing dishes, I'm just so at peace and shining from my
yeah,
inner self. I
yeah.
know that my heart is speaking,
Mm.
and it's really hard to bring that into the world and then go treat patients and drive in traffic
Absolutely.
and go to the grocery store.
Absolutely. I'll tell you why. Because you softened and expanded your mind,
Yes,
but you didn't actually sink into your heart. You opened your field of the mental with the intention of connecting to your heart, but you didn't drop into your heart space. And so you're living life still from the mental space.
that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Because if you were in your heart, you would start to feel it wake up.
Hmm.
And most people, wherever we put attention to, we are.
Hmm.
And we're always here. Even, it's like I work a lot on Zoom too. We're here. So, how many hours a day have we spent out here? If we don't, when we go to drop into our hearts, guess what? We're dropping from here.
Right.
And often we're doing this, not this.
Mhm.
So, if your brain and your head don't feel a release from being in the ceiling, when you drop into your heart, you haven't changed locations.
I
You've
want
just expanded your field.
I want to interrupt you because I'm recording audio only.
Oh,
So for my
yeah.
listeners, Heidi's taking her hands out, right? So outside of our bodies
Yeah.
and bringing it closer to ourselves, but not inside of ourselves, not from inside.
Yes, and if we are like all the aspects of nature, nature contracts and expands.
Mm.
So we have an orientation of self in the field, but the guide of how the field is responding is based on the frequency that we are. So if we are like, I think of like a stethoscope, we put a stethoscope in our ears and we have this little thing that we're attached to, and we listen to people's hearts and lungs, but we're still here out in the field. That's where attention is. So our attention has taken us out of central orientation and plunked it in front of us.
Mhm.
What it does is it closes the field. So we have to practice reorienting ourselves. And what happens is when the field contracts, it pushes you forward. So we have to practice reorienting ourselves in the field, becoming central to our existence. And then, like an elevator, so I use tangible experiences because just like memory, we have a full experience in our systems. So we all know what an elevator feels like.
Sure.
And those of us who grew up in the 80s and 70s know what waterbeds feel like. Right? You kind of like sink in. There's this sinking in. Well, a lot of people talk about grounding, right? We got to come down. But guess what? If the majority of our time is spent forward and we don't actually come back first before we come down, we're not actually arriving to our center and we won't find our hearts. Right. Because most of our hearts are not 8 to 10 feet in the field, which is what they've been mapping. Right. The frequency, the capacity is out that way. But our hearts are usually contracted because we live in this world and it's a tough place to be, as you mentioned, right? It's hard to go out and navigate life when you're opening your heart. Well, what if you centered yourself in your own field, not just in your mental field, but your emotional field, brought your heart back into the center of your awareness, what I call the awareness box, because we have our fields are huge, but our capacity to be aware of so much space is dependent on our ability to let go. And that's what opening the mind is an act of letting go. And when we can find that center, we will actually experience sensations that will tell us where we are in space. So we can do a little activity if you want. I can talk you through it.
I love that.
This will be a vert guided so your client, your listeners can practice. So get a sense, and most of us are like 10 feet forward. If you had a sense of being like vacuum back or laying in a waterbed and feeling a sense of yourself drawing back, most of it is going to be from the head, but you will feel it in the body, right? You got to feel that pull.
Mhm.
What if you got a sense now as that opens up So the way I see it in your system, you're actually halfway between your shoulders. So what if you got a sense of your edges as you're pulling back? And you may have to release one and widen, like I can see with yours. There's a need to, you're shifting right, so your system's going to need to go left, right? I can track people in the field so I can see where you're at. So your system needs to come farther back on the right because we're kind of like a Rubik's Cube. We don't just all come back. Part of us is way farther forward than other parts of us. Perfect. So now you can feel your right is starting to settle, right? Balancing out. So now you're more even in your alignment in the field. Now, if you relaxed, bringing in like what an elevator feels like, and you just start sinking that down feeling, you'll notice you went more right than you did left. So you have to sink more on the left, which is a requirement of you softening and letting that elevator sink you down. And you'll notice because all of a sudden you had sensations release in your throat. Right? Now you can feel the chest space. You can feel the release of the back of your neck. Right? So you're still in the front of your front heart. So get a sense of the space between your shoulder blades as you're sinking down. And you'll notice you went left, not right. So soften on the right and allow yourself. And you'll notice you're hitting sometimes when we go to sink down, there's something below us that won't let us sink. So right now in your system, there's tension in your belly. So to actually go down to, let's say, level 2, your system has to clear what's stuck so that the base of your elevator underneath you can actually sink down. So your system needs to release your belly so that you can actually drop into your heart.
What does that mean, release your belly?
So just soften, like melt like butter.
Stop holding on. Stop
Yeah.
holding my own muscle tension.
More than that, because the concept of it is still a word description, but butter is an experience. So we can talk ourselves to want to relax, but that doesn't ever work because we don't know what relax is, but we know what softening like butter feels like. It's an experience. So if you soften like butter and melt and get a sense of almost like it's like melting down the throat, down the belly, you'll start to notice sensations in your belly you're letting go. And you start to notice sensations around the upper throat are letting go, and your pelvic floor is activating. You are finding your way in your heart. Now your heart's starting to tingle. Now you are in the left side of your heart. Let the right side come down a little more.
Just for those who are not watching on Zoom, I'm sitting with my eyes closed, but I feel like fireworks in my central chest.
Yes, because you're opening space for you to exist.
I
And now
mean,
you
that's
are.
a mic drop.
Absolutely. So we don't need to, and so this is kind of a little demonstration. You're welcome to open your eyes. The concept I had the other day is we're all taught to, oh, breathe here. We need to breathe in our shoulder. We need to breathe in our breath. We need to breathe in our belly. We need to pull our diaphragms down. None of that makes any sense to me because we are breath. We are waves of breath. So let's just get out of the way so we can breathe instead of forcing control, 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 control. So what you did was just release control, but
That's
you
exactly
released it
right.
in a way that bypassed the brain.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's
So now
like
how
I
do you feel?
was the breath instead of feeling the breath, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yep, that's where the story comes in. That's why we all love journaling and we love all this mental stuff because it's a bit of spiritual bypassing. We're not actually experiencing being human. We're conceptualizing the concept of being human.
It's exactly the difference of how I feel right now is I feel my body instead of talking about my body.
Yeah. And you go out into the world and you are more in the center of you. The world is no longer a risk.
And what I would like to point out is how short that was. I mean, I didn't look at the timer, but it was a very short period of time, and I
Yep.
feel entirely different in my body.
Yep.
And I also know that when we're not on Zoom together, I will be butter. I will be allowing my space
Yeah.
to come open.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like the body doesn't have accelerators, it only has brakes. So we
Mm,
have to, our brakes got stuck. We
mm,
have to unbrake the contraction that we've been in.
mm.
Even when the trauma or the story is cleared, our brakes are so sticky, we have to take the break and make space. It's, one of the things that's beautiful about chiropractic is it unsticks things, right? Whether it activates the nervous system, creates flow, unsticks joints, unsticks muscle patterning, it starts to create an expansion of the system. And now, depending on the practitioner, you may just get a physical expansion or you may get a multidimensional expansion, which, is really cool.
I do love that. And can we talk about that for a quick minute?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've said a couple of times on my podcast, and you said it differently, that yes, a person comes in, usually if it's the first timer, it's because of pain, or let's just say a person is experiencing physical pain because they don't know how else to ask to be touched or how to ask to come and see me
Yeah,
as a practitioner. They
yeah,
come in, the body responds in certain ways. I mean, we're all unique and special just like everyone else, right? And so when they come back and that pain hasn't released, I
yeah,
know it's because, I mean, the bodies respond very similarly, right? Think horses, not zebras.
yeah,
Most people respond in most ways.
yeah,
When there is something residual, or still hanging on or comes back up, sometimes I hear a little voice in my head, they just want to come and see me. Or do you know what I mean? And
oh,
also,
totally, totally.
I'm making the
Yeah,
space to be safe here.
yeah,
And
yeah,
of course, that's my intention every day. And every day I ask the universe, please send me people that I can help. And that way I know I'm there for a reason, they're there for a reason. I don't need to know what that reason is.
yeah,
I don't need to know it's back pain or fill in the blank why they think they're coming.
yeah.
But with what you just said, is really powerful. As I mean, I feel so strongly as a practitioner that my job is to create this space. I don't know how else to say it because the room that we
Yep,
meet in is the room that we meet in,
yeah,
but that's just the physical room.
totally.
Every day before they arrive, every day after they leave. I mean, it's almost like I have I put the brakes on that I don't call them after, that I don't say, I pray for you at night. Like I don't tell them this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
it's a really important piece of the healing journey because this is the individual choice
yes,
for the individual to choose the practitioner that is for them. And it's
absolutely.
okay to have multiple practitioners. It's
Yeah,
okay to move on, even
yeah,
from me. Honestly, I mean that
totally. Oh, yeah,
wholeheartedly.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so speak a
And that's
little
that
bit to
layer.
that. Yeah, because clearly what you're talking, I mean, first of all, your work is so esoteric, it may not be for everyone. Not everyone's ready, clearly. That goes without saying. Also, I think they'll move forward, right? I think
But you
after,
know what's funny is being in Northern Idaho, I have people who are super Christian. And I have people who are loggers and, for the better term, rednecks who see me. And the truth about it is, it doesn't matter where the human is at. The practitioner with their capacity can hold space wherever they're at. Um, and I don't have attachment if they want a prayer to God. I mean, I've had Jesus show up in our session and I was not into religion. So it really is, people just want permission to be human. And that's the capacity that we can hold. And in our flexibility as a human, our range, we can then show up and meet that. And my range is so wide that I could have a total redneck logger who, is very staunch Northern Idaho. And then I can have somebody from, New York who's like very, very extreme to that. And all of it's beautiful because all of it is just being human. And what you're explaining is that container, when we open up the container and meet people where they are, their nervous system and everything starts to soften. We're all just little kids who want to be safe and be loved.
mm,
And right there in that intention, it's like, I see you exactly who you are, and there's nothing wrong with you. Whatever,
mm,
wherever you're at, whatever your story, um, even if it's just you learned how to breathe and you learned how to be with no judgment and the capacity to just experience yourself slightly more. And I'm tend to be a person who I don't coddle people, but I increase the nudge, which allows them to move into discomfort in a way that is courageous without it being ripping off the band-aid. And I had to learn that a lot over the years. But I found that to truly be in a place of healing, we have to, one, welcome discomfort and know that pain is our way into joy.
That in and of itself is a book. I mean,
Yeah,
that
well, it's interesting
go
because
through
joy
it,
is
right?
the
Like go
absence of,
all the way through it.
yeah, absolutely. Joy is the act of being alive, and feeling means you're alive. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever you're feeling, it's a celebration,
Mm-hmm.
right? You got the flu, fantastic. Guess what you're feeling more? You got back pain, awesome, you're feeling more, let's see what we can do to get it to move through you. So it's the act of integration more than it is the stagnant experience, which is why we're in pain, is because we're in resistance to pain.
Contracting.
Pain doesn't create wounds. Resistance to pain creates wounds. So when we
Mm-hmm.
hurt, we're in resistance to being alive. And my job is to connect whatever it is into whatever version of your human, so that you have a little bit more sovereignty to experience that aliveness.
I love that. And I love the openness. I
Yeah,
love the inclusivity. Um, what everything that you just said makes me feel like it's for everyone.
absolutely.
Do you know?
It should be.
And it should be.
Like,
Exactly.
everybody has permission to heal, regardless of where on the spectrum we are in the
And
rainbow.
to feel, as you said, one of
Yeah.
our colleagues, Brett Jones, did a
Mm,
talk, and I heard him. He said, our job is not to feel good, our job is to feel. And I
yeah.
was like, preach. If everybody could just understand
Yeah.
that, allow the feeling and then keep going.
Yeah. Well, and just take it a step further. Our job is to feel alive,
Mhm. And
right?
that's what alive feels like.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's
Because we
pain,
can
sometimes it's
feel,
excruciating.
yeah, we can feel in resistance. We still feel. But to feel in alive is actually an act of opening. Because if we stop at feeling, we often are still in a contraction.
For sure.
So
When I have
it,
back pain, I stop until
yeah,
I go, what does this feel like? Or
yep,
sick, as you said, I have the flu. Are you kidding me?
yeah,
Then you feel through it and suddenly it's gone.
yep, absolutely. And it's like the act of embracing that.
Life in action, right? It's like,
Yeah,
let's
I love it. I love it. Such a big deal.
yeah. Well, Heidi, thank you. This is so amazing. So how do you work with people?
Oh. I work with people on Zoom, and I do distance healing work. So, or I do coaching work, or I mentor people because I can track where people are at. It's like taking you through a dark room and holding your hand and saying, okay, you feel that, that's an orange. You feel that, that's a couch. Because a lot of people don't, even when I grew up, I say grew up in chiropractic and in the world of healing, nobody has ever had confirmation. Like, you feel this, but what does it mean? Or you're intuiting something, but what does it mean? You don't know. There's no place that I found that somebody is holding your hand and teaching you what you are feeling for you, and not a technique. So with my capacity, I can feel what you're feeling, I can hear what you're hearing, I can see what you're seeing, I can smell what you're smelling, I can taste what you're tasting. And I do this work in person, or I do this work over Zoom, and I guide people back to them in their way. So their own energetic blueprint, whether it's through coaching, whether it's through soul and alignment, whether it's through distance healing, whether it's through actual mentorship where I train people to find themselves in their human experience because I can handhold them, or whether I see them in person. So if you're local, if you're international, we have both options.
Fantastic. And I'll absolutely put in the show notes, however you want me to put them
Sure,
to get a hold of you.
sure.
All that. Oh, what a pleasure. I'm going to say our goodbyes now and stop the recording, but I can't even tell you what a absolute pleasure and honor it is to
I
spend time.
appreciate you having me on. It has been really great to connect with you.
Yeah.